Now turn to the simmering pressure at the Russian-Ukraine border in the wake of high-level diplomatic talks and just days after the White House warned that Russia could invade Ukraine any day now. Well, tensions are still running high. Both sides set to begin military drills.
For what you need to know, let's bring in Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, John Kirby. John, thank you for being with us. There has been so much back and forth, mixed messages here coming from the Kremlin, coming from other world leaders. So if you can put this into perspective for us and cut through that, what do you believe Putin wants and what will it take for him to de-escalate?
Well, he clearly has stated that what he wants is security guarantees, claiming threats to Russia's national security really along that sort of western border with Ukraine. And what he has claimed he needs is, something more tangible than what he appears to be getting, or what he thinks he's getting from the West, from NATO, from the United States. What we've said all along is that Ukraine's sovereignty needs to be respected. This is an independent nation. It's a sovereign state, and to threaten that sovereignty and territorial integrity would fly in the face of the rules-based international order that's been in place since World War II. The other thing that we've said is NATO needs to be respected, and we need to make sure that we're meeting our commitments to NATO. We are a NATO ally, and we take that treaty commitment very, very seriously.
And can you tell for the Americans back here, what does crisis averted look like? Because there are some who speculate that we could be in for a long haul all year of a heightened sense of just conflict here. So what does crisis averted look like?
That's a terrific question. And as we've sat down at the negotiating table with Mr. Putin, we have laid out proposals that we're willing to consider doing, like changing the offensive missile capability structure there in Europe, like altering the size and scale of our exercises if the Russians would reciprocate. And look, Mr. Putin can easily take this crisis and avert it from any further consequences by simply removing some of those forces from his the western part of his country, moving them away from the border with Ukraine, and being serious about sitting down and trying to find a diplomatic path forward. We have laid out that path for him. All he has to do is sit down and take that path. And to your point, we could easily avert the crisis.
And John, can you explain to the average American who's watching all of this unfold what's at stake for that part of the world and what's at stake for our country in this potential conflict?
One of the worst cases here is the potential for armed conflict, for war on the European continent. We haven't really seen that play out, since the Balkans in the 1990s. And that's at stake here. I mean, if he decides to invade Ukraine, it could actually become an armed conflict, and that means casualties. That means death and destruction. It means refugees. It means a potential humanitarian crisis. There's a lot at stake here if he decides to further invade Ukraine. And nobody needs to see that happen. It doesn't have to happen. What also could be at stake here is a chance to really find some diplomacy here, to find a way through this in a peaceful way that doesn't resolve in those kinds of conflicts and those kinds of deaths or civic destruction. It's interesting. One of the things Mr. Putin says is he doesn't want to see a strong NATO. And we know he would love to see NATO divided, but he doesn't want to see a strong NATO on his western flank. Ironically, that's exactly what he's getting, because as he continues to make these threats, as he continues to build forces up along that border with Ukraine and in Belarus, and now he's well up over 100,000, what he's done is solidify the alliance. He's actually brought the alliance even stronger together than it was before. And as you can see, not just the United States, but other countries are now putting forces on NATO's eastern flank. So the very thing he says he doesn't want, he's actually getting through these actions.
And sir, one other thing, I don't want you to necessarily draw a line just there at the border, but is there some line that Putin could cross into Ukraine that will signal to the U.S. that he has gone too far, not just physically too far, or will it take some kind of violent and armed action? You get what I'm saying? Hey, can he just be to a point that we consider this is an invasion, this is an act of war, or will there have to necessarily be some type of actual force?
President Biden, I think, has been really clear on this. Any incursion into Ukraine, any violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity would trigger severe and significant consequences, not just from the United States, but from the international community, largely of an economic nature. And again, it would certainly even further solidify NATO and would probably engender additional moves by NATO allies to shore up that eastern flank.
We know you are a busy man. John Kirby, Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, and we appreciate your time in joining us on the program today. Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.